And now I'd like to turn it over to our next keynote presenter, Olly Freedman, who's the Regional Director Europe for Retransform. Olly?
Thanks very much, Derek, and thanks for the invite to speak at the Global PropTech event today. So as you can see, I'm going to be talking about emerging and adopted technologies in the real estate industry. And the technologies I'm going to cover today, and I say cover, we only have 30 minutes or so it's more likely an introduction or a glimpse into the following, which you can see, and it's machine learning, artificial intelligence, natural language processing, and robotic process automation, and the appropriate acronyms as well. So with machine learning, so because I'm a simple person, I like things to be explained in a simple way. So I had someone explain to me the difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence in a simple way. And forgive me if you're well versed on the subject, but I thought I would take this opportunity to explain for those that don't know the difference. So if you feed hundreds of thousands or millions of pictures of objects, or in this case, animals, into a machine, it will learn to identify and differentiate between them. So, for example, dogs and cats. The world's split between dog lovers and cat lovers. So hopefully this slide appeals to as many people as possible. So the same principles apply. And in the first steps towards autonomous vehicles, or AVs, it's really important for tons and tons of data to enable the AVs to work, and to enable the machine learning to work, i.e. what does a car look like? What does a junction look like? What does a traffic light look like? What does a crossing look like? And for those watching from the UK, I wondered how many people know what a puffin crossing is. I had no idea. I knew about pelican and zebra, but puffin was a new one on me. And also what a moose looks like and what a rock looks like. The list goes on and on. So the AI will determine whether the car slows down, or whether it speeds up, or whether it stops abruptly to avoid a collision. And there's currently widespread debate as to which way the car will swerve in order to save a person in the front, or the left or the right of the front of the car. So in summary terms, machine learning and natural language processing, which we'll come on to, are part of AI, and they are effectively the tools of AI, and it's the AI that makes the decision. So this graphic here I thought was interesting. I'll give you a few seconds to have a look at it, and you'll notice what is strange about it. And the answer is that there's no traffic lights. So with autonomous vehicles using AI effectively and 100% on the road, there won't be a need for traffic lights, because they'll all be talking to each other and they'll know where they all are relative to each other. So a learned colleague of mine, Casey, explained to me that traditionally one writes rules and logic and provides data, and you get the output. With AI, you provide the output and the data, and the AI will write the rules or logic. So many people will be familiar with Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, which was formulated in 1943. The modern day equivalent is the Data Hierarchy of Needs, and this is credited to @MROGAT for the graphic. So the point of most data within an organization is for accurate and up-to-date reporting. In parallel with Maslow's hierarchy, one has at the bottom raw data, ideally from a data warehouse, but most commonly from another type of database or Excel. Then you have cleansed data at the next level up. Then you have information in the form of various reports, and then you have knowledge in the form of dashboards, and with AI, predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. So the predictive analytics is obviously the prediction of what is most likely to happen, and the prescriptive analytics is where a recommendation of an action is made. So this is an interesting comparison between Maslow's original graph, which shows needs intensity and personal development, and the needs intensity and technological development. So with technology, and in particular data, the needs intensity to collect over time will decrease, but will remain important, and much of it will be automated. And at the other end of the scale, the learning and optimizing, which one could argue is similar to the self-actualization, will continue to grow in terms of technological and needs intensity. So I haven't really talked that much about the use of ML, AI, and NLP, and that's natural language processing, not neuro-linguistic programming, in real estate and how it's been adopted. But I thought I'd play a video to best illustrate this. And if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then the video has to be worth 1,001 words. And it's not a video about how to make vegan lentil curry. So let me just swap the screen over. Alexa, are you connected?
I am connected to the internet.
Alexa, open Blue Real Estate.
Welcome to Blue Real Estate. You can now ask questions.
Can you please give me a portfolio flash briefing?
Portfolio flash briefing. You have 307 properties, 260 retail and 47 residential. Occupancy is 97%, and average rent per square feet is $24.5. 2 anchor tenant leases are expiring soon in your properties in Illinois.
Can you show me a lease expiration commercial dashboard?
Okay, the lease expiration commercial dashboard should be on your device's screen now.
How many properties do we have in the state of Illinois?
In the state of Illinois, you have 49 properties, 21 retail and 28 residential. Average occupancy in Illinois is 85%. Rockford Crossings is the best performing property in the state.
Can you tell me about the property Rockford Crossings?
Summary for Rockford Crossings. It is a 118,650 square feet retail property located at the NEC with 32,800 annual average daily traffic in the heart of Rockford's retail corridor. Shadow anchored by Target, this power center has TJ Maxx, DSW, GameStop, Hobby Lobby, and Aldi as the top tenants.
Can you email me a leasing report for this property?
Sure. I am sending you the report. Please check your mailbox.
Thanks, Alexa. No more questions.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, and then we come back to our presentation. So the AI model takes into account intent, which determines what the person wants to do, and the context is what the question is about. So currently, second generation bots are widely being utilized. That's the NLP GP2, but are gradually switching to GP3, which are capable of constructing meaningful responses by themselves. So the customer experience should improve. Another development with bots is the conversion between languages, which will be very, very interesting and liberating. And for those of a certain age who will remember Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the Babel fish will not be needed. Unsurprisingly, according to Gartner's top tech trends that will define 2021, AI engineering is one of them. And it's important for companies to invest in a solid AI engineering strategy to create, amongst other things, performance, scalability, and reliability. In a real estate company, there could be a scenario where the CEO or the CFO may ask an asset manager how much exposure do they have to a certain tenant that could be close to failing as a business across the portfolio. And this data can take sometimes many minutes, hours, or days to collate. With Alexa enabled, anyone with the appropriate rights can find out the answer. The AI can provide not only the simple direct answers, but the predictive and prescriptive responses. So we now come on to RPA, robotic process automation. So what is RPA? It's essentially a bot that mimics human behavior to execute a sequence of steps. The main goal is to replace repetitive and boring clerical tasks performed by humans with virtual workers. My simple version of the IEEE, or the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers definition of RPA is as follows: a pre-configured software that uses business rules and predefined steps to complete a series of activities autonomously across multiple and not necessarily related software systems. And believe me, you didn't want to really hear the full version. So that's the summary version. This Gartner report from 2019 shows 18 RPA tools, of which the 3 most well-known are also the leaders and visionaries and appear in the magic quadrant, i.e. the top right. And these are, as you can see, UiPath, Automation Anywhere, and Blue Prism. So with regards to the history of RPA, it's not necessarily a new phenomenon. It's evolved from a convergence of familiar technologies that have been around for a long time. And these include Excel macros, web scraping tools, business process management tools, OCR, etc., etc. So what are the capabilities of bots? So there's some general examples, as you can see: opening email attachments, logging into web/enterprise applications, moving files and folders, automatic filling of forms, reading and writing to databases, processing calculations, and probably most interesting of all, collecting social media data and statistics. What are the key drivers of RPAs? So, like many software initiatives, when looking to introduce RPAs into a business, it's important to have the C-suite buy-in. And the main drivers are reduce operating costs, operate more efficiently, operate more competitively, increase productivity, and increase scalability. In Anthony Slumber's August 2020 blog called Talent and the Real Estate Company of the Future, he states that any task that is structured, repeatable, and predictable can and will be done by the machines. The type of jobs we're talking about include those that are rule-based, consistent, template-driven, have high error rates, are data-intensive and time-consuming. The repetitive and boring tasks carried out by humans can be replaced by bots, which means the humans that are retained can focus on what humans do best, i.e. soft skills, including empathy, any tasks that involve social intelligence, judgment, creativity, and imagination. You will notice one of the attributes of RPA is customer experience. And I'm sure many of you have experienced a service that is less than satisfactory when interacting with bots, either on your phone or on the web. But these should get better with the more widespread use of good quality AI. So the current examples of bots currently used in the real estate industry. So 40% of jobs in real estate have a technical potential for automation, according to a McKinsey report back in 2017, which was called The Future That Works: Automation, Employment and Productivity. And the jobs included are not just the obvious, i.e. data collection and data processing, but those that involve providing real estate expertise. Naturally, there is a crossover of tasks with real estate finance, and some of the examples of RPAs used in the real estate industry, and there are hundreds to choose from, are AR and AP processing, data entry into systems like Trimble, Oracle, Yardi, MRI, tenant credit processing, automatic report generation, automatic form filling, and bank reconciliation, to name a few. So some ways in which RPA will help the real estate industry to change. So not surprisingly, the back office functions are to become a lot more automated and, in theory, a lot more efficient. The use of spreadsheets, especially those that are dealing with large amounts of data for what they're not designed for, will become more automated. The richness of data that's available will increase, partly due to the increase in use of RPAs to collect the data and analyze the data. And this data will be used much more to support decision-making of a predictive and prescriptive nature when combined with AI. Okay, I have another video to play here. So let me just swap this over. And this is an example of a bot in financial real estate.
Thank you. Come again.
And just going back to the presentation. So as you can see from the definition and description of RPA previously, you can see very clearly the execution of a sequence of steps. So historically, humans were responsible for collecting the collection of data, the analysis, and the decision making. But over time, with AI, ML, and RPA, humans will have less and less input, as illustrated by this graphic. A few examples where this is happening in the real estate industry currently is in asset management. Forecasting using AI has proven to be more accurate than human forecasting when comparing budgets and actuals. In property management, there are examples where AI has saved hundreds of thousands of pounds in maintenance costs on individual buildings due to the analysis of historic data and the recommendation on items where savings can be made. And other ways AI can be used effectively in real estate is in the acquisition and disposal of properties. So multiple potential deals with a high number of variables can be screened and shortlisted in a fraction of the time that it takes now. And in reverse, multiple variables of existing stock can be analysed very efficiently to provide a short list of underperforming properties based on a predefined set of parameters. So the future of RPA, one is no-code RPA, which is actually low-code RPA, where a limited amount of coding is required. And this is an emerging technology, but there are strong companies with offerings in this space already. And then there's self-learning RPA. So this is where multiple inquiries are sorted by a confidence score. The low confidence inquiries are processed manually to enable the software robot to learn from the results, therefore enabling a greater range of business automation. If Anthony Slumbers is listening, he'll be very pleased to hear that robotic process as a service exists. And this is where the service is outsourced to a firm that specializes in RPA for real estate, for the real estate industry. And I'm just going to finish on this slide, mainly because I like the graphic, but it's also very important. So this is DevOps, which combines software development and IT operations, which they probably weren't very merged previously. And it's important to any organization to have the AI engineering and the RPA included in DevOps rather than as isolated projects. And I'm going to leave you with a quote from the Deutsche Bank CEO, John Cryan, from 2017, although still very relevant today. So today we have people behaving like robots. Tomorrow we are going to have robots behaving like people. And that brings me to an end to my presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope, thank you for listening and watching too.
Great. Thank you for that presentation, Olly. All of our attendees to today's session, if you have any questions or comments for Olly on the presentation, please do write it in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. While we're waiting for people to go through that, it's very interesting looking at the natural language processing and the robotic processing that you showed in your two video examples there. And one thing I'm wondering is, do you foresee deeper applications within real estate and asset management for those? So being able to compile data from across your portfolio to speed up and make the management process more efficient. But can you also see that being something that gets implemented within the operational aspects of real estate management as well?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's already happening where you can utilize the sort of portfolio analysis and AI and natural language processing, which pulls in data from not just the property data, the traditional property data, but you could pull in financial data from external sources which relate to every tenant that you have, for example. And as I alluded to in the presentation, you could go and research maintenance company costs. So you could compare 2 or 3 maintenance company costs over a certain period, and then so that would help the operational side of the business as well. So as well as the financial, yeah, I can definitely see the uses for the operational.
Yeah, no, that it's interesting that you brought up the maintenance cost aspects, because the part that I thought of was not only being able to compare, say, different maintenance companies or activities across your portfolio, but then also looking at the larger CapEx dependent equipment within buildings across your portfolio and seeing the performance of those, like which ones need more frequent maintenance, which ones need less, which ones are closer to needing replacement, so that you can decide much more holistically across your portfolio. Oh, we need to invest here in order to get the most out of our ROI on the portfolio, instead of a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more data that's available for those units and for the external cost of them, the projected lifespan, AI, that's kind of meat and drink for the AI.
Yeah.
That perfect kind of data. And then with the natural language processing fed in, you could just say, what's the predicted life left of, plant A on, in building 4, and it would provide that information. And then if you've implemented the AI correctly, it will tell you, what you should do about it. Replace it in a year, or replace it in 3 years, or it'll end up costing you more in the long run.
Yeah.
So yeah, the future it's kind of wildly interesting.
Nice. Do you have any predictions or insight into what's the speed of kind of implementation or uptake on that? Like, when are we going to see that in a building near us?
That's a very good question. I mean, it's happening now, but like with everything in life, there's the sort of early adopters, which is a very small number of people or companies. I'm not one of them when it comes to technology, ironically, but that could take a while to build, and it could take a year or 2. It could take longer. I think there's the famous saying that people they overestimate what's happening in the 2 and underestimate in the 10. So it's going to happen, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, I don't know. I mean, I had I had a conversation with my son recently about autonomous vehicles, because I showed him that graphic without traffic lights. And I said, that's going to happen, and he's like, it won't happen for 30 years. And I'm like, well, it might happen sooner. It could be 20 years. But he's pretty convinced it's not going to happen in the next 30 years. So he's probably got a better idea than me as well. But who knows?
Yes, it's. I'm sure the kids right now growing up are very in tune with kind of, yeah, I see that happening, and I love to be a part of this. This right here, I don't know, maybe not so much.
Yeah. And interestingly, you mentioned the kids today. So very few kids that I've seen interact with the internet type. Yeah. They all ask it questions. So, when this generation, the sort of, 8 to 16-year-olds are going to be working, which is, 5 years time, 10 years time, there won't be, they won't expect to have to go to Google and type in their request. They will expect to know the answer to the question having spoken. And that will apply to real estate managers. So it's going to happen, by demand, if it doesn't happen sooner.
Do have one question that's come in for you, Olly, from Renee Tehar. Hi. It surprises me the stage the sector is that I cannot imagine you have to explain DevOps. Do you think the sector will become more mature soon? and busy with the real issues like SDG, energy transition, water, etc.?
Well, the reason why I put DevOps in there is because I didn't know what it was, or at least I didn't know that it was a thing. So yeah, it's the industry, to give it credit, is probably more advanced than I perhaps gave it credit for by introducing the DevOps slide. But it is known to be behind other industries. I think the rate of change will be quicker than perhaps the other industries took, because there were no leading industries when they converted. Whereas the real estate industry does seem to be a bit more behind. But instead of taking, say, 5 years, it's probably going to take, or instead of taking 10 years, it might take 5. Whereas other industries might have taken longer. So yeah, the change is definitely on the way. From meetings we're having with companies, some companies are already quite advanced in their digital transformation process, for example. Others not so.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for that, Olly.